Good morning and welcome to ABG Sundal Collier Investor Days, where we have plenty of companies that will present during the day in different sectors and branches. But starting off, we have Ovzon and its CEO Per Norén, who will go through the company, its recent development, market trends, etc. And then we will follow up with a smaller Q&A session by me. And my name is Simon Granat. I'm the lead analyst at ABG covering Ovzon. And with that said, Per, please go ahead and present.
Thank you, Simon. It's very pleasant to be here this morning, and I'm excited to talk about Ovzon for all of you today. So without further ado, I think I'll jump into it. Who's Ovzon? Most of you might know about us, and if you don't, you should know after this session, obviously. It's a very exciting company. I would say one of the most exciting companies on the Swedish stock exchange today. If you look at Ovzon as a glance, we were founded in 2006. We're listed on Nasdaq Mid Cap in Stockholm, Sweden. We have our main operations. That means both people, customers, and where we deploy our technology and services in the United States, in Sweden, in Italy, and in the United Kingdom. What do? We offer world-class satellite communication solutions for which we call Satcom as a service for companies that have mission-critical operations. We'll come back to that in just a minute. Our sales if you look at upper right corner, our sales, as you can see it in million SEK, have been basically hovering around 200 million SEK in average over the years. But we now are on a path towards a drive and a step change in growth, basically, which I'll talk about a little bit in a minute, and why that is happening, and in what markets we're actually focusing our efforts. But you can see that that is actually a trend that is changing, which I'll be happy to talk about in a minute. You can see on the rolling 12-month perspective, we have 298 million in revenue. And yes, we are doing heavy investments in our own satellite, which we called Ovzon 3, to the magnitude of $1.34 billion. Our vision is really to revolutionize mobile broadband by satellite, by having global coverage, and we will have the highest throughput to the smallest terminals. It will make sense in just a minute why that is essential. We have a very, very unique solution. So in comparison to all other competitors in this marketplace, we are really targeted and focused on companies and organizations and markets that have mission-critical needs when they are in areas where there's no infrastructure or limited infrastructure, or they need a guaranteed uptime and communication and mobility. Our solution includes 4 distinct aspects. One is our mobile satellite terminals. We designed them ourselves. We own the intellectual property and the patents for all of that. We designed them, we developed them, and we produce them through a partner. But that is a very important component. Most of our competition does not have their own mobile satellite terminals. And ours are unique. They're the smallest in the industry, they're the lightest in the industry, and they have the highest performance in the industry. And performance is very critical. We talk about uplink of 120 megabits and downlink of 70 megabits per second. So that's very, very critical for anyone that is in a remote area with a mission-critical assignment. Number 2 is we manage a network of satellite antennas globally. Today, we buy that capacity. We buy that capacity from world-leading satellite operators, and we bring that together in an integrated network that we then manage through our network operations center and our service support center, which is number 4 here. And number 3 is we buy the connectivity service through teleports and gateways that connects to fiber and backhaul through the world-leading organizations that we have worked with for a long period of time. It's an essential piece of our solution, but we have decided to be asset light in that perspective and really focus on the technologies and the solutions in number 1, number 2, and number 4, where we're the only ones in the world that actually have all of those aspects of the business, and we control that. And we can thereby control the performance and the technical aspects of actually delivering service and guaranteed uptime for our SATCOM as a service. To whom do we then sell? And I think this is extremely important to understand. With mission-critical operations, it could be a broadcasting company, obviously. It could be a commercial organization that has a task somewhere in the world. But foremost, it's government and defense businesses that have mission-critical assignment. You can think about the recent crisis and the war between Russia and Ukraine. That is, in essence, where all the infrastructure was struck out very, very early in that encounter that they had, which meant they had basically they could be without both electricity and communication infrastructure. That's where our solutions come into play. It's not for the common commercial organization. It's more for the mission-critical defense organization, help organizations, rescue organizations, non-government organizations, United Nations, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the target markets we have. You could look at the key customer list. They are United States Department of Defense. They are the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense, to mention two of them. We recently, at the end of last year, signed the Italian Fire and Rescue Service, who today have a dedicated service with one steerable antenna from a satellite and our mobile satellite terminal solutions, which they use for both rescue missions and proactive and predictive rescue education and so on and so forth. They're also the #1 in the world when it comes to those kind of very critical, mission-critical operations. We work with the United Nations and also with the Colombian government. We recently helped with the presidential election, meaning we helped register with our communication solutions votes in the outskirts of Colombia, where there was no infrastructure, etc. And we got more, the Colombian government got more voters than they've ever had. And then, of course, we have worked actually with a number of different organizations when it comes to broadcasting and other commercial organizations. But in essence, the core customer base today is government and defense, rescue, and help organizations today. We work with a direct sales organization, so we've built up our sales organizations, but we work through channel partners. Those are pretty known brand names like Airbus, which we are a partner with. They are our distribution channel. They help us go into customers and markets. They have global reach with what they do. And we work with the Defense and Space Agency. And then in each of the countries we operate, we have Bandsat, for example, in Colombia, Gomedia in Italy. And then Intelsat is a satellite operator that we both buy capacity from and steerable antennas and steerable beams from, as well as we work with as a partner with the U.S. Department of Defense as a reseller for us. So it's a very close collaboration between these parties to actually achieve what the customers need. Let me talk a little bit about the financials and what we've done that have changed the curve of high growth and drive for profitability for the company. So in Q2 and year to date, we delivered our SATCOM as a service to the Italian Fire and Rescue Services. We had a very strong sales during the second half year of 2021 that we now deliver on. The Italian Fire and Rescue Service was turned on April 1st. We did a renewal, which is very critical here. We have a number of contracts, and most of them in the government sector are on 1 year each, 1 year terms. So it's very important to have high quality of delivery and then renew those contracts. That's the base of it. And then you add new contracts and customers on top of that. So we renewed one. We've had extreme interest in our solutions given the situation in Russia and Ukraine from all of the markets that we're in, and we're in deep conversations. Sales cycles are long, so we have to be upfront and early when we're out in the market talking to all the constituents that need it. And we're also going through as a company an industrialization effort. So we're a fairly small organization with about 35 people, most of them in technology and engineering and go-to-market and service delivery. But we do much more than that because we outsource production of mobile satellite terminals, production of our satellites, Ovzon 3, production of a number of things, and we buy capacity from satellite operators. So we actually punch well above the size of the workforce that we have because of the outsourced model that we have. And industrialization and professionalization of how you manage that is very critical to us. And one significant order we took after the year is another renewal, which is very critical, with the UK Ministry of Defence of $1.1 million. Now, let's go over to Ovzon 3. Ovzon 3 is our first own satellite that we will own. We have designed a lot of the technology on that satellite, but also Maxar, who's our production partner, has designed some of that. They're one of the most advanced and world-renowned satellite producers in the world. It is true that we are somewhat delayed with the launch of that satellite, mainly due to, or all due to actually, a delay of components during the COVID period. Those components are now delivered, and they are now in Maxar's production facility, including something we have developed, an onboard processor, which is basically a supercomputer that is going to be based on the satellite, put on the main payload of the satellite, and you can think of it as a switchboard that you can control from the ground via software. And basically, if the big teleport, the gateway on the ground, is struck out, which happened in the Russia-Ukraine situation, you can use the onboard processor and make one of our mobile satellite terminals a hasty teleport and use that for a closed-loop communication for that mission that the organization that is using it has. You can think of that as very unique for cybersecurity threats or protecting it for defense organizations and others. But it also sets up yourself as an organization, a user of this, very uniquely for continuation of the guaranteed communication of SATCOM as a service. We're entering the final stage of integration and final assembly. We believe that, and we're going to go into what's called terminal vacuum testing here in a couple of weeks, and then finalize the satellite, then ship that to the launch sites. The launch is planned to happen between December and February. There are other launches in between, so you have to work with your launch provider, Arianespace in our case, to actually gear the exact date of that. But all vectors look at December to February launch of our first satellite, which we're very excited about, and I believe our customers are equally, if not more, excited about the capability that we will deliver with this. I think I've already mentioned this, long sales cycle, but it's very important to look at order intake. And order intake was very strong in the second half of the year. And then if you quickly can turn that into delivery, which we did in the first half year of 2022, it turns directly into revenue and growth. And which also then, if you continue to manage your cost base well, which we do, it drives your profitability to the right level. So it's important for us. This is a key performance indicator we have. When do we sell? What's the order intake? What's the order book? And how fast can we turn an order into delivery? And we're very, very strong at this. We have a discipline around this, which makes me feel very confident about the future and the step change in growth. The financial performance for the first half of this year and for Q2 was very, very strong. You could see that Q2 was 77.9 million SEK, but I would say more importantly, the first half of the year is significant growth with 53% really. And it all comes down to what we sold and how we delivered and how we took renewals of new orders that had continuation. And this would of course continue to roll. But our main focus right now on the financial performance is to make sure we continue to have the order intake, as I talked about, and then turn that into delivery. And that will drive revenue up, and it will bring the profitability levels to a new level, I would say. On the balance sheet, there are a few things maybe to comment. I've mentioned this figure before. Yes, we have invested 1.34 billion in Ovzon 3 in our satellite. It's financed. We did do a drawdown of $10 million from our credit facility in the second quarter, which gave us a 390 million Swedish kronor in cash position, which is good. And with the continued service we have from the installed base, we're also driving towards positive cash flow, which means we're in a good cash position and our operating cash flow is solid. We would, of course, want to continue to drive new deals that turns into service that drives that cash flow towards us as well. But I think we're in a solid position. We've invested heavily in our satellite. It's getting towards finalization, and then we can turn that into financial results as well. So that's the game, basically, we're in from a balance sheet perspective. And going forward, I think in summarizing things, I would claim that our drive and strive is continued step change in profitable growth. Our go-to-market organization has been invested in during the last year and a half to make sure that we really focus our efforts on those markets where we now see that our solutions are something that the market looks after, et cetera, et cetera. Sales cycles are long, so you have to play the long game, and you have to be in there, and you have to be close to your customers. You have to have the right partners. But what we know is that our Satcom as a service is second to none. No one else controls all the aspects, as I spoke about, the mobile satellite terminals, a managed network, the gateway that we buy the service from, but foremost our service delivery and support 24/7, which keeps the uptime and our customers at a guaranteed level of high performance and communication. There is a consolidation going on in the industry. We believe that's good. You might all have seen that the likes of Starlink, which is owned and managed by Elon Musk and so on, are making great strides. We think this is extraordinarily good. They are in the low Earth orbit satellite market, satellite communications market. That's more for consumers. It doesn't have the preciseness and the performance and mobility that we can provide. So we're a niche provider with our geostationary satellite towards more mission-critical operations and organizations. So it's complementary, basically. And I see a path in the future where those two actually merge together, and you can have a low Earth orbit connectivity network and a geostationary network. And depending on who you are in the value chain in society and government defense and emergency and so on, you pick and choose. If you're a consumer, you're likely on low Earth orbit satellite network. And if you're an operation critical organization, you're likely on the Ovzon Satcom as a service network. And then you can combine those in the future where technology evolves as well. So we see it as a great thing that so many investments are going into the industry. And we can actually ride on that wave as well in a very positive way. And last but not least, we're looking forward to launching our own satellite and making that come through to fruition at the end of this year or early in 2023. And then it'll take 4 months for the satellite to be in orbit, but then it can be used for the kind of services that we offer the market and that the market asks us to do. So I think a very positive trajectory for Ovzon, very strong company performance by our team. I want to thank all our employees and our other stakeholders, suppliers, customers, and shareholders for their continued trust in us, and we will not let you down. And we're very excited about the second half of this year, 2022, and the first half of 2023. And with that, I think I'll end and hand the word back to Simon.
Thank you so much, Per. I believe that was a great presentation, so thank you for enlightening us on recent trends. Starting off, you've been with the company for now 1.5 years, approximately.
Yes.
And during your tenure, sales have improved quite well. Can you talk a little bit about what you have accomplished as CEO? What have you focused on? I know that I asked a similar question about 1 year ago and what you are focusing on, but what do you believe that you have accomplished?
I think it's a very good question. It's a very personal question in many, many ways too. I think, as a leader, you come in and you look at the organization, and what I saw was an extraordinary technical brilliance in the company. I think number one thing we have done, not only me, but we have done, is we've honed that technical brilliance in to more focused efforts around the satellite terminals, the managing of the network, and the service delivery. And I think that then leads to a result. The result is that you deliver quicker and you have a very high degree of customer satisfaction. So I think that's the number one that we have accomplished. The number two thing is a focus on which market should you go to? Who are your core customers? So really focusing in and understanding the in-depth of your customers. And I think we've done that and reorganized the commercial and sales and marketing organization towards those markets. Because I think you have to be like nomads, where the market is, you have to be. So we've now deployed kind of our sales and marketing efforts both in geographical markets and in market segments of those markets. And that's a continued evolution, but I think we've seen the result of that with the Italian fire and rescue service deal, etc. And we work very closely with our partners, but I don't think we'll ever win unless we actually are much closer to the end user, because I think that's what we're all about. So I think that's the number two. And I would say the number three thing is the engagement of all stakeholders. We have long-term investors and shareholders, from smaller investors, private investors and shareholders, to somewhat larger institutions that are long-term. They have been with the company for a while. They will stay with the company, which gives a focus and a stability. But I think part of my job is to make sure that all of those are informed and that they continue to believe in the company and so on. And the fourth aspect is industrialization, really picking partners that you can work with and that can go with you through hailstorms and rain and sunshine and blue skies. But I think those are the four things. But in the end, it comes down to people. So you have to be engaged with your constituents.
And would it be fair that, given your comments during the presentation about the long lead times that we're seeing in the industry, that most sales progress that you've been seeing year to date have stemmed from previous efforts? So it's not really the recent geopolitical events; it's rather that they might turn out in render improved sales going forward. Or how should we think about these lead times and recent sales development?
Yeah, I think that's another very good question, and I think that's something we grapple with ourselves all the time. And I would say that the second half of 2021 was very important to us because we did conclude some of the conversations we'd had in the first half of 2021, but they were lingering, so they weren't really leading to anything. So I think we got a little edgy on how to actually close deals, which is a very important aspect. You can have a lot of good conversations and a lot of good meetings, but if you don't close deals, it won't lead to anything, right? So I think you should look upon it that way, that I think we sharpened our ways of getting to closure. Secondly, I think we broadened our outreach. I think we were fairly narrow in our outreach, and we broadened our outreach in 2021. And that has now led to the conversations. I think my comment around lead times refers back to a little bit to, but now with the war, I often get the question, now with the situation in Ukraine and Russia, why haven't you sold anything? And it's not that, my point here is it's not that easy, because the need is there. We've been in the area, by the way, with partners and with ourselves. And the need is there. Where does the funding come from? And the funding often comes from central NATO sources or the countries within NATO. And before the funding of things and the need, they need to meet at some point. So you need to work both ends of the spectrum, the need and the solution, and the funding sources, which is more of an administrative and bureaucratic process. And I think that's what I mean with that it has lead times, right? Because there might be a disconnect between the actual need and where the funding comes from it, and government budgets and so on. So I think you should look upon it as we're actively pursuing. It won't happen like you sell an ice cream on a hot summer day. It will happen when you've actually moved the funding sources and the need together. And I think that's our job, and that's what takes time. So I think you should see us as very active in the market, and that it takes 6 to 18 months for anything to actually come to fruition in this world.
It's very interesting. I believe that we are running a little bit short on time at the moment.
Yeah.
But it was a great pleasure having you here, presenting the company and also giving good answer to my questions.
Well, thank you so much, Simon, and thank you to ABG Sundal Collier for hosting us here today. I think these meetings are very, very good. It's always a pleasure to be here. So thank you so much to you and the entire ABG team.
Thank you so much again, Per.
Thank you.